originally a Mindanao.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I don't know.
What's your home church, or where is the church that you normally attend?
Okay. So I got two districts around the Oregon Conference. First one is in Scappoose, St. Helens, and Vernonia. So I have a privilege to pastor two districts. And usually afternoons we have an off. So thanks again for inviting us, Amy. Yeah.
I think you used that. You need to.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, you just have a headset? No?
Oh no. It's
Oh,
okay.
you just need this mic.
Yeah. I just have a broken wrist.
Okay. All right.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
You won't hear it without that.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I am done with my questions. So here you go.
Okay. You're done. All right. So, anyways, for this afternoon, I will be speaking to you guys. I would love to speak to you, but I would invite my wife, Girlie. She's also from the Philippines, in the central part of the Philippines, and she's our principal of our school, and Scappoose SD School under Oregon Conference also. So I would like to invite her this afternoon to inspire all of us.
Can I borrow this?
Oh.
Ngayong hapon mga kaigsunan. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Annyeonghaseyo. Ano pa? Happy Sabbath, everybody. It's a privilege for us to be here this afternoon, and my friend Fernando is here. It's amazing. So he was the one actually who told us. Well, we heard about Lens. We heard so many good things about this church. Just gonna move a little bit because the light is hurting my eyes. And he told me, it's like, you should visit that church. They have a very active Filipino group there. And then it happened also that one of our church members at Scappoose Church, Jim and Lori Christensen, very active. Jim is our new elder of the church. And Lori is a deaconess. I think you know them. They were members of this church for 9 years. Or they were actually wanted to come with us, but then their sister is visiting. So they said, next time. A few months ago, we were planning to come and visit you, but it just did not happen. God has a perfect timing. So my husband just had surgery a few weeks ago. He had a motorcycle accident, unfortunately, but God is good. Is all good by God's grace. So he asked me to speak today, and then so if you invite us again, he will be the one to speak. We want to come and visit, if possible. You know, we just have commitments. We don't have free Sabbaths. Last week we were able to visit Seattle Greater Fil-Am Church, and we met Pastor General and then his wife, and they told us about how amazing this church is. And it's like, you should connect with the church people there, and you would like to visit. So we're here today. Thank you for the invitation. And also, before I forget, I want to invite you guys, if you could visit us on April 20, because I don't want to forget. I have the flyer here, and just want to take this privilege because it's very rare that we can get out from our territory. So we have benefit concert. It's Because He Lives, and we have that. This is going to be on April 20, 7 p.m. Our friends from Andrews University. So my husband and I just moved back from Andrews University 8 months ago, and so our friends from Andrews are coming, and they're going to sing for us, some of our friends, and then from California. And so it's going to be a beautiful night of songs and praises to God. And also, if you have some talents, I heard that you are gifted here in music. So if you have that talent, we want to give you the number to sing that evening. Or play, I heard you have bells here too. So, rondalia, or whatever you call it, ukulele, or whatever it is, we want to give you 2 numbers if you could. So, all right, so let's talk about that afterwards. Thank you. So we just want to make it as, open to our friends, to community. And so you guys know that you have from some Filipino family in that side of the Oregon conference. It's so lonely. It's just my husband and I in that church. Well, it's not lonely. We love our people there, but it's nice also to see that we have our people around us. So this afternoon, I want to talk to you about faith that moves mountain. Do you believe that faith can move mountain? Yes. And so basically this afternoon, I will be sharing our faith journey with God. And I know we all have our faith journey. I would start with our verse, and this is our theme at the school, at Scapos Adventist School. Matthew 17:20 said, "And Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you." I would start my story back in December 2007. It was Christmas time back in Fil-Am, Cavite. I was attending AUP, previously PUC, so many of you went there, you can relate. I was a master's student at that time. I only go to the school every Sunday because I was a full-time worker, at the same time supporting myself to have my degree. And so one evening, I visited my friend, and at the same time, just to give you a little background, I am a teacher, and so I was teaching that time, I was studying, I was also a colporteur, so literature evangelist, and I sell anything that I can sell to survive. Basically, if you look at my bag, I have Triumph brochure, I have Natasha brochure, all kinds of brochures that you want to find, and then I had 5 cell phones. Encyclopedia, anything. And then I had 5 cell phones. You know why I had 5 cell phones? Because I manoglod ako. So I sell not AT&T. Smart, Globe, TM, lahat na lang. Everything that I could sell. And so that evening I went to this place. We had a Christmas party with my friends, with my missionary friends. And when I went there to collect the utang, and then my friend asked me, "Girlie, would you like to go to Saipan, Northern Marianas Island?" And I said, "Where is that?" It's like, "Well, it's part of the US." I was like, "Okay." And I said, "Yes, I would like to go." That's just the conversation. So that was just the short, so I want you to understand the conversation, like, "Would you like to go to Saipan?" And I said, "Yes, I want to go. I want to be a missionary there," because she said it's a missionary work. So that was Saturday evening. Sunday, I went to AUP. I told Dr. Joy Balila and my other 2 professors that I am going to Saipan. That was just the conversation. They said, "Sure, you could go. I still have 3 months to go for my school. I just need to take all my homework with me, my schoolwork, and then we can communicate online, and I can mail all my classwork, and I will pass the class." That was easy. The next day, Monday came. There was no call that I'm going to Saipan. Tuesday came, 9 o'clock a.m., no calls. But I didn't even worry about it. I just said, "I'm going to Saipan." 10 a.m., my phone rang. I was teaching. I excused myself. I went to the bathroom, and I answered the call. And this lady, the principal of Saipan Adventist School, said, "Are you Girlie?" And I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Can I interview you for a minute?" It's like, "Of course." So we talked. After 10 minutes, I was hired. Sent my ticket the next day. I flew after 3 days. Went to Saipan just in 5 days. That was a giant leap of faith for me. And I didn't have time to say goodbye to my friends, to my family, because it was just a very short notice. But the beauty about this story, the reason I started with this story, was because when I was told I was going to Saipan, I was told by the accountant of the school that I'm going to have a partner, a male partner. So I went to the airport that day, And lo and behold, there was a guy sitting on his suitcase, and that was Pastor Aguilar. And that's how we first met. We met at the airport, Naia Airport in Manila. That's the start of our journey. So, a little background. When I was in high school and college, I wanted to marry a pastor. I always say to myself, Lord, someday I want to marry a pastor because I want to serve you to the, like we don't have so many women pastor, so I'm just going to stay here so I think you don't have to move that away. I want to marry a pastor because I want to serve you to that capacity. And when I was in college, I'm not bragging, when I had so many suitors, when they are not theology majors, I don't even entertain them. It's just because I had this qualification in my mind. People would think that's crazy, but that was the truth. It's like, if you're not theology major, I'm sorry, even though you are so handsome or whatever status you have in life, it doesn't matter. You need to be a theology major. And I was begging my parents to send me to Central Philippine Adventist College in Bacolod City because I want to find a pastor there. I had a wrong motivation of going there to find a pastor. Then I dated, theology major for 4 years. It did not work out. That was not God's plan for me. God has a different plan for my life. And then when I met this guy right here in front of you, he graduated from MVC as an accountant. And he went to AUP and studied nursing. Is that even close to being a pastor? Not even close. And then we were just friends. We met at the airport that day. We flew to Saipan. Every day we go, our apartment. So all the teachers live in this beautiful apartment. Just 5 steps away is the beautiful white beach ocean. It's a beautiful paradise, like little Hawaii. And we talked every day. The friendship developed. And then we came to the point that we're, it's just the love blossom. It's nice to start with a friendship. And I was talking to God and I said, Lord, he's not a pastor. How is this going to happen? It's like my dream. It's not going to happen anymore. And then I just realized his dad is a pastor. His brother is a pastor. His grandfather is a pastor. It's like the family. His uncle's a pastor. And I said, Lord, that's close enough. You know what? You don't have to marry a pastor to be a missionary, right? But you see, God honors even the silly dream of a little girl. Because before you know it, 2007, after 7.5 years in the island of Saipan, the Lord called him to go to Andrews University to study to become a pastor. Isn't God amazing? God answered this silly question. I was like, Lord, I just forget about that dream. I gave that dream up, and I will still serve you. You don't have to be a pastor to serve God. You can serve him in whatever capacity you can. I am a teacher, I am a missionary, I am serving him. But God honored that dream that I had in my heart. So, I praise God for that. Because he knows what is the desire of my heart. Fast forward, we arrive in Saipan. We planned only to stay in that place for 3 months because it was a short-term missionary work. But God has a different plan. We stayed there for 3 months, and then the first and second grade teacher of the school got sick, and they needed a replacement right away. The principal asked me, Girlie, can you stay? I stayed. I asked God, Lord, if this is your will. And the 3 months turned to 7.5 years. But because Anthony was not a pastor at that time, he was about to leave. So that day he said goodbye, he packed his bag, and he was ready to leave. And God had an amazing plan, because if he left that matter of 3 months, nothing's going to happen. But then The accountant, remember he's an accountant. The accountant of the school left for 3 months vacation, so they needed an accountant for the school. God just made it happen, so he stayed for 3 more months. Now, to make the long story short, 3 months was over. He needs to leave again because he's not a teacher. He does not belong to the school. He doesn't have credential to teach. And it happened that the school needed a school nurse. And so he stayed again. After 1 year, they don't need a school nurse anymore. They cannot afford. Now our dental clinic needed a dental nurse. And he ended up staying there for 7.5 years together. This June 2007, the call came. 2015. He actually made a vow with God when he was in high school. His mom was very sick. She was in the ICU. And he made this prayer, this vow with God. And this is what he said: Lord, if you would heal my mother, I'm going to serve you as a pastor. That was high school or elementary. Went to college, took accounting. After working 5 years in Fil-Am, took nursing degree and forgot about the vow. And he remembered that after many, many years. And he didn't even tell me. He knows that I wanted to marry a pastor. He knows that. But he didn't tell me what he had in his heart. And when the moment he told me in 2015 that was his vow, guess who was the first supporter? Let's go, let's do it. I was happy. That he had it in his heart. He was not motivated to become a pastor because of my dream. It was there already in his heart that he wanted to serve the Lord in that capacity. I don't want you guys to take me wrong, that we can serve in any way we can. But it is a calling. Ministry is a calling. So March of 2015, we left Saipan to June. We had 1 week spring break. He sent me to Andrews University to spy the land. Remember the 12 spies of Israel? The 10 spies were the bad spies, and the 2 spies, Joshua and Caleb, remember them. So before I left Saipan, he said, you could be the 10 spies or you could be the 2 good spies. So whatever you report, that really depends on you. You know, whatever the Lord put in your heart. So I went to Andrews, fast forward, went to Andrews University 2015 March for 10 days. You know, the jet lag, 35,000 miles. That's a long trip for me. I don't know how many hours, but just for short of 10 days. So I went there. I had a family, the kind of family. I stayed in their house for 10 days. I checked everything, like how the land is, you know, is this good? Are there so many giants? And guess what's the first giant I found at Andrews? Fernando can help me with that. For the first giant that usually students find is the tuition. When I checked the tuition, I am a PhD student, and the tuition is $13,000 per semester. Where are we going to get that money? There's no way. Missionaries, we don't get that much in the island. And so that was the first giant that I encountered. I looked around, houses are not affordable for students, and there is no way we can make it. So I was about to go back to my friend's house to give him the 10 spies report. The giants are so big. Oh, yes, of course, big grapes there. Good things I found at Andrews. But the big giant there was the finances. It was too much for us. But God is good. He sent someone on my way to encourage me. And then somebody invited me, one of the professors from Andrews University invited me to have lunch with her. So we ate together, and she started sharing her faith journey with me at Andrews. And this is what she said. And this line caught my attention, and it was the Lord slapping my face, telling me, Girlie, where's your faith? And this is what he said. She said, the more you have, the more you depend on yourself. But the less you have, the more you depend on God. Do you agree with me? That statement just stopped me. Lord, I'm going to tell my husband we can make it. So I went home to my friend's house, called him, said, we can make it. There's no question how, whatever, the Lord will provide. So, March, fast forward, nobody knows from the island that I left. I went there and then I sent him a picture of me, you know, that globe, Andrews University globe, and he posted it on Facebook. Well, of course, everybody knew. The principal called me in his office, Girlie, what does this mean? What does this picture mean? You flew that far? This means something. It's like, well, we don't know. The Lord knows. And it was just so fast. It was March. By June, I sent my resignation. He sent his resignation in our Adventist clinic. We left. And remember, we still need our visa. And before we left Saipan to go back to the Philippines, we sent whatever we had. My husband and I are avid bikers. So we bike, so we have that's like our precious possession that he carries with him wherever we go. And so we sent them to Andrews University, not knowing if we would get a student visa or not. So we shipped our books, we shipped whatever we had, and not knowing if we could make it to Andrews. So we went back to the Philippines. We don't have savings, we don't have money in our bank account. And we had an interview. And usually, first thing they would ask you, do you have enough money to fund your school for 3 years? But guess what? They never asked us that question. We stepped into, the front, how it looks like in the embassy, the front window, and the lady said, congratulations, you're going to Andrews University. In 3 minutes, visa given, no question. Isn't God amazing? The first reaction we had was, praise God. Lord, you have a plan for us. We flew, we don't have money to fly. So we always depend on God. So we got our visa. Now the question, how are we going to fly to Andrews University? The Lord will provide. A few days later, we got an email from our work, from his clinic where he used to work, and the director emailed us that we will pay your way to Andrews University. Isn't God amazing? And we arrive at Andrews University. We don't have an apartment. It was all just leap of faith. We arrived there, we stayed in our friend's house living room for a few days, and the Lord just provided a way for us.
Amen.
And God is amazing. Fast forward, 2018, right? 2018. Last year, April of 2018, Andrews University visited Oregon Conference. My class was supposed to go to California. And I was excited because I know so many friends in California. It's like, oh, I'm going to see my friends there. Then my professor told me, sorry, Girlie, but we're going to Oregon instead. It's like, okay, that's not a problem. But then I told him, I don't want to go. I will just stay because I went to Cuba a week before that and I was just exhausted. Like, every day we were on our feet. We just, from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., we're just standing, walking, talking to people. Hola, we don't understand. That's all the words I know. In Spanish, puerta, tenedor, cuchara, that's all I know. Plancha, But it's hard because I thought I know so many Spanish, but I only know vocabulary. But when you communicate, it was difficult. And it was tiring emotionally, physically, mentally, stretching our brain, because we cannot communicate to people. And arriving, at Andrews, after a week, we need to fly to Oregon. 3 hours difference is a big deal. So my professor will not give up until I would say yes. It's like, you have to go. And my study is in collaborative ministry. I don't know if you heard about collaborative ministry, together as one here in Oregon Conference, that church and school are working together as one for the ministry, for evangelism. And so I decided to join the group. But a month before that, Oregon Conference, never thought about Oregon Conference while we were there at Andrews. A month before that, Oregon Conference Ministerial Director came to Andrews to interview students, just to interview, collect resumes, but they were not looking for any pastors yet. They were just interviewing, stacking resumes for the future. So my husband and I went for that interview, and that was just it. We left. There was no job offered, or there's no job opportunities for us, and we were not ready to graduate yet. Anyway, so it was not a big deal. So then April came. I came here. We went to Middle Glade Adventist Elementary School and Columbia Academy. So we were there, and I was so exhausted, just like, coming from Cuba, and just my day was just terrible. But anyway, I was there, enjoying my time with my friends and the people, and I met Angela White. We were talking, we became friends on Facebook, so I'm actually thankful to Facebook. So we became friends on Facebook. I left, we went to the church close to Vancouver, I think it was Vancouver Church. We had dinner there with all the pastors and principals and everybody from the conference office. And we came in from the car, and Angela ran to me and she said, "Girlie, how come you did not tell me that you are a PhD student?" And I told her, well, I don't really tell people that. I don't introduce myself that way. I always introduce, I'm Girlie, and by the way, that's our real name. Because they would always give me that look, Girlie, is that real nickname? Looking at my passport, that's not real. But Girlie is my real name. I'm happy with that because I can make friends easily because of that. It's easy to start a conversation anywhere I go, even on the phone. So I'm grateful. But anyway, Angela said, I want to offer you a job. It was like, it's just a conversation. And then I thought she's not serious about it. So we went inside, and then Gail, the director, was there standing. He's like, Gail, I want you to meet this lady. We want to hire her and her husband maybe in the future because her husband is a pastor. And I did not take it seriously because I'm still finishing my last courses at Andrews. And I left. To make the long story short, we finished our trip here, went back to Andrews. I told my director, I said, Dr. Matthews, they actually offered me a job. I don't know if I have to consider it. And he said, don't even think about it. I don't want you to live here until you're done with your dissertation. And I told him, okay, I'm not going anywhere. But the Holy Spirit never stopped nagging me. It's like the whole month I was bothered with this offer. And then I went to one of my professors and I said, I have my last class to take. It's called synthesis class, which I have to prepare for my comprehensive exam. And when I told her about this last class, and I'm the only student in this class, she said, Girlie, don't worry about this class. It's independent study. You're doing it by yourself, and we do it on Skype. And you write on your own. And so that means you can leave if you wanted to, because you're done with your coursework. I was surprised. And then, so that was a message already. Fast forward again, because the story is long. You're going to get tired. May, graduation weekend at Andrews. The director from Saipan came and approached Anthony and I, said, we want to offer you the job in Saipan. If you guys would come back, we need a principal there and we need a pastor there. And said, well, that's too far away. It's hard to go back and forth, if I have to take my exam or whatever. So maybe not this time. But we started thinking, it's like, maybe, why not? The Lord wants us back in that island. That was our home for 7.5 years, and that's where the love started. The friendship blossomed. And so it has a very special place in our heart. But that was not the plan for us. May 5th, I texted Angela White and said, is the offer still available? And she called me right away. I was just so excited. Before you know it, the next day she interviewed me. She interviewed me the next day. A few weeks later, they flew me here. So I went to Scapus Adventist School. Oh, but before that, before I forget, when she interviewed me, after my first interview, there's so many questions, 60 questions, I believe. She said, oh, Girlie, I don't know where to put you because, she has her reasons. Then we'll see how the Lord works. The next time that she interviewed me for the next set of questions, she said, you know what? God is so good. Because the principal of Campus Adventist School is going to transfer. And the pastor at the church is retiring. It just worked out well. But then, of course, he was not done yet. He still has few credits left. And we left the school by faith again. We left July 2nd. We traveled 5 days with Penske and, our car pulling it. And then we arrived in Oregon, started a new journey in a place where we call the unknown, but God has a plan for us. And we started July, and my husband was supposed to go back to Andrews by January because he needs to finish that last semester of his classes. November came, the search committee started for the pastor for the church. And I was in the search committee. I was like, no, I don't want to be in the search committee because my husband applied. I applied for that job. It's like, it's okay, we'll send you out when we talk about him. Job was offered to him. So instead of him going back to Andrews, they gave him the job. And he started just February 1st of this year. We serve an amazing God. And so I don't have to worry about anything in life because God will take good care of us. The 13,000 tuition for PhD students at Andrews, it was impossible for us to make it. But God provided for us. And I want to share, because this is a very important story that I always like to share to encourage those who sometimes question God. Lord, how am I going to make it? Life is so difficult, Lord. But you see, the Lord owns the cattle, the hills, the valleys, everything that we have, He owns it. So I will tell you my $10,000 story. Do you want to hear that story? So here comes the $10,000 story. So when we live by semester, it's just the Lord provided for us per semester. So this $10,000 story. One day, tuition statement came. Oh Lord, this is a lot. On our knees, pray, the Lord will provide. Pray that night. And since, when you're thinking a lot of something, then you end up having those dreams, right? And so I dreamed that night that the Lord gave me $10,000. And so the next day I went to the director's office and I said, and I worked for him, so I was his assistant. So I said, Dr. Matthews, how much is your scholarship for me? I asked it by faith. I don't know if they have money for me. He said, what did the Lord tell you? That was like an amazing question. I said, well, last night in my dream, he said $10,000. I was like, I love your faith, Girlie. I said, come back in 2 weeks, we're going to have a meeting. So 2 weeks came, I went to his office. My office, I work also in that department, so my office is just so close to him, so I went and said, I'm excited to hear what you're going to say. He said, oh, I'm sorry, Girlie, but we can only give you $9,000. Oh, $9,000, that's good enough. And it's like, but not 10,000, but the Lord tell you 10,000. I said, but you see, the Lord did not tell me that it's just coming from your department, right? And he said, that's right, you're so smart. But anyway, a few months later, I was invited to speak for Women's Ministries Evangelistic Meeting for 1 week at Chicago, Morton Grove, Chicago. Anyway, we attended church. We helped 3 churches in Chicago when we were in Michigan. And so we went there for 1 week. After 1 week, guess what? The church gave me a $1,000. Did it complete the 10,000? But God was not done yet. And that Sabbath, the last Sabbath of the evangelistic meeting, was our 7th year anniversary. So the church collected a lot of cards and lots of flowers and everything, and they have this box, nice box, with so many envelopes and so many checks and cash. And when we counted it, it was $825. So the Lord gave me more than $10,000. Does the Lord provide? Is He still the same God that Abraham served before? Is he still the same God that Moses served when he let the Israelites cross the Red Sea? Isn't he powerful? Do we need to worry about anything in life? No, we have nothing to worry because we serve an amazing God. I don't want to share everything so we can come back and share more in the future. But I will share with you the faith of Abraham. It says, by faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. So my challenge to you today, brothers and sisters, sorry for taking so long. My challenge to you today is that have faith in God. Have faith like Abraham, like Isaac and Jacob, because he promised something greater than what we have right now, greater than our childhood dreams that we have in our hearts, greater than the job dream that you have in your heart, the kind of house that you wanted to have, greater than that he prepared that beautiful mansion prepared for you and for me. And I want to meet all of you in that beautiful kingdom that he prepared for us. This is my prayer.